it's very hard for me not to see that there's just a huge coincidence between lead toxicity and environmental justice. Is a larger issue. I think the two are very, very intimately connected. The interesting thing to me is that many, many people who have huge social concerns, are totally surprised to discover that lead is a problem. They thought that lead went away when it was removed from gasoline. They thought that lead went away when it was removed from house paint. And the reality is that any house built before 1970 has a very high probability of having lead. It may be encapsulated under other coats of paint, but if the house is not well maintained, it's there. There's residual lead from industrial activity, and certainly in congested areas, the gasoline fumes and the lead emissions haven't really gone away. They've deposited in some cases in the soil. And there still are certain industries that use lead, and in certain areas that's a problem. And the way that the laws are written, if a child shows up with 5 micrograms per deciliter, which is our cutoff point, as an unsafe level of lead, the first time that happens, the parents are likely to be told this is a problem and that's it. It's not until that repeats itself that people start looking at it. Keep in mind also that if you look at some of these areas, they are disproportionately places where people of color live. They are disproportionately places where the income is low, sometimes at or even below the poverty level. And you can begin to pull together a picture which talks about the environmental justice issues that really are sort of connected with lead toxicity often. And you sort of have to put yourself, I think, in the shoes of people who are seeking houses in some of these communities, and they often don't have the choices that people with more means would have. And they may, in some cases, be afraid to report to the landlord that there is a lead problem. And it isn't until there's an investigation and people come in that these things become addressed. It's one of the tragedies of this whole thing that if we had put the money into de-leading things, giving people the resources, the knowledge to look for this, the funding, the support to get rid of lead, it would be far less than the cost to our culture has been over the years because children have been exposed to lead. And I think that that's a very important point to take into consideration. Often you'll see things where, oh yes, we're committed to something, we're going to make it happen, there'll be a certain amount of funding committed, inadequate for what the task is. And I think that has been very, very true in the case of lead. And I find it very interesting, coupled with that people, until recently, really thought that lead was not a problem. They thought it had been taken care of.